Are you inspired? It's too early. Go back to the coffee bar, that will inspire you. All right, how about this as a warm-up exercise? Let's just shout out which countries, these things that have boundaries and that have been drawn over centuries, sometimes decades. Let's just shout out where we're from. I'll start. California. I didn't say Texas. United States of America. Shout out. Countries you're from, yes.
U.S.
Thank you, that's two.
UK.
All right, Denmark.
Ireland.
Ireland.
England.
England. Ireland.
California.
Come on. Yes. Lithuania, yes, that's right. Very close by. France. Italy, that's right. Italia. Germany. India. Denmark. Spain. Switzerland, exactly. Yes. Russia, thank you. Brazil, I was waiting for that, but probably the longest distance. I think you get the big champagne bottle. Croatia. Wow. Yes. Egypt, that's correct. I remember it. Isn't that remarkable? I mean, that's, I'll never forget. Japan, of course. I remember our friends from there.
And Finland.
Finland. Where are we? So that struck me this morning getting up about this topic, why global collaboration and entrepreneurship education will change the world. That's a long one. So I'm the warm-up act to get to the real thing. Tina Turner. No, I mean Tina Sealand. I feel a little bit
simply the best.
You know, one of those lounge singers before the real, who you really paid for. They come up along with Will and talk about the future of REE and how it can add value to your professional life. But the other thing struck me was that exercise at the end of the day. And the Post-its are right around the corner, if you recall. And I picked a couple off the wall. I'll put them back. One was networking, the best you can do. I was celebrating the value of our networking and our connection here, which I talked about on the first morning. And then the other was, we are all in the same boat. Together we can rock. I like that, being an ex-musician. Who said that one? Clearly another guitar player or something like that. So I think my intuition and my gut feel is that we think collaboration is a good thing. Can we all agree on that?
Yay.
And as professors or educators or people who like to hang around an educational system, better known as a university or college, we are naturally open to collaboration. It's a great legacy. I was talking at breakfast with John Mullins. Not only on the scholarly side, the research side of your activities. That's well known. That's how you get promoted in a number of institutions, is by publishing, and that means by publishing with other authors who are elsewhere around your country, but probably around the world. That's a long history in academia. We know that. And teaching, we were reminiscing, and he reminded me that when I was building my courses, or when we were building the center, but just think about the courses we were building, I relied on the expertise of others. I would either through some sort of connection call somebody or just cold call another professor and say, I'm putting together a course, would you please talk to me about the way you've done it at that institution or this institution. So there's been a one-to-one collaboration for decades, long before there was something, the internet or even a personal computer. That's for those of us at that stage of our lives. So certainly for younger folks, that's natural to collaborate one-to-one. But here we are, at the end of 3 days of this particular conference that has been used to network, to talk about educational initiatives, specifically in this field of entrepreneurship education. So think about why you came. And I asked you to do that on Wednesday morning. Now I'm going to ask you to do again, and how that's changed, and how it's not so much about how your thinking has been informed, but let's talk for a little bit about why this was worthy of your time, but why would it be even Why would it be worthy to be even more radical in collaborating? What is the motivation to just go home and just take it up a notch, to do even more intense in your collaborating with the people that you met here, or would meet in something similar to this around the world? All right, let's just all think about that. I could give you Post-it notes and we could write it out, but do a virtual Post-it note in your head about why is it so important that we collaborate in this particular field. We'll talk the rest of the morning about how. Whether it's REE, what happens to REE, maybe some other vehicles to do that. But let's just say why. What motivates you? Tina.
No, I'll kick it off.
Please, please. Would you stand up too?
Yeah, so-
and can you do me a favor as a pattern? Just say who you are. We all know it, but
I
what
want the
country?
cash box.
Oh, yes. Here it comes. Tina. Oh, yeah, wow, he's cheering with the catch. Woo!
Okay, so I am here because our students come from all over the world. They go back all over the world. They're going to be competing in a global economy. To be a responsible educator, I need to know what's happening around the world.
Fair
Anyone
enough.
else?
How many
Okay.
people feel that way? Students come from all over. We've got, our students are multicultural. We've got to be multicultural, and we need efficient ways to do that. Okay, over here. Would you identify yourself, please?
I'm Hervé from PFL in Switzerland. I have the feeling that, contrary to Silicon Valley, where you have an amazing network of people, we are very much isolated. We never have a critical mass in any place, and we need to join forces. Who's next?
Tom, do you want me to write up there?
Okay, I'm Soren Ockar, well, the University of Copenhagen. I'm here to, because similar to your point, yes, is that the entrepreneurship education is still in the cottage sort of industry.
Yes.
So we need to collaborate in order to grow this, and we need to learn from each other and pick up valuable learning from other people, and also benefit from discussions related to industry and so forth.
So people understand what he means by cottage. I mean, it's still a relatively new field. We all agree, and we need this to build arguments, if you will, to build a case for what we do. Be entrepreneurial, in other words.
Alistair P. from Belfast, where we're on the edge of Europe. We live in isolation. 96% of my students come from Ireland. My PhD students are from everywhere else.
Wow.
But I come here because I need to know what everybody else is doing. So I sit beside Petco this morning and I get a 20-minute beautiful tutorial of what's happening in Bulgaria. And the price of aluminium, my students need to understand that everything in the world matters, and that's why you all matter to each other.
Yep. I mean, it's been proven, if not, in any system of the world, it's been proven that it's interconnected. Whether it's what happened in 2008 with the financial shocks, or whether yesterday we were listening to Risto talk about climate change, or I have a brother who's involved in healthcare. Pandemics know no boundaries. There's no such thing as boundaries when it comes to life science issues. So this is incredibly important to be sensitive to those. Right here. Would you please stand up, Margaret?
Hi, Margaret from the Innovation Academy. I think for the students, we're sending them out into a different world, and they know that, and it's a world where we have to help them to create their own opportunities and take more control of their lives. And I think as educators, we also need to learn from each other how we can help them to do that, because it's a new challenge for us as well. And I think together, it's finding new vehicles, because entrepreneurship is not just about building a business, it's social change.
Okay, fantastic. I was trying to go off the wall.
Good shot.
And then over here, and then down.
My name is Stephen Walsh. I'm from the Grenoble School of Management. The reason I'm here is to connect with you, as many of you as I can. I think our students are more socially networked than we are, and I think we need to keep pace with them.
By the way, counterpoints are invited as well. I mean, if there's one place where I love debate, and I'm sure you do as well. So if people feel like there's some counterbalancing arguments or discussion, please feel free. This is a safe place.
I find it's useful to challenge sort of the complacency. You know, you think you're doing the right thing, and you get kind of comfortable with what you're doing, and then you come here and see somebody just raised it a notch, and they raise the bar, and so it's a way to keep challenging what we do and challenging complacency that we may have.
You also mentioned, though, or would you talk a little bit about it also forewarns you or foreshadows some unintended consequences?
Yeah, so I think there's an opportunity to kind of look ahead. Many of you are further ahead in your thinking and what you're doing than we are, and there's an opportunity to perhaps skip over some of the mistakes that you've made and jump ahead and leapfrog to the next level. And you know, talking with Tina, you know, Tina's facing some of the challenges that I've not even anticipated yet, and by her giving me early warning, I can think, right, you know, that's a bear trap. I don't want to go there. How can I jump over that and without following exactly in her footsteps?
Right.
Who's next?
Oh, hand it
Whoa.
up here.
Up here.
Oh, I want to throw it to Peter. That was a bit hard.
He went with you again.
He did indeed. You guys spilled strawberry over my pants.
We should pull a soccer move and just kind of headed it over.
Peter Kelly from Alto. I was just counting. This is my 21st REE.
Ooh.
Wow.
That deserves a heart.
And I had to reflect why. And actually,
Why?
Alistair and I, if we count, we probably have covered off 40 somehow, at least. And I was sort of thinking with the invites, the people I invited, particularly the first day, I think we're in the disruption business. And companies are in a rut, universities are in a rut, and what inspires me an awful lot is I've got a lot of colleagues in here who can share their frustration of how do you do disruptive things in a very traditional industry. And that's a global challenge. That's a really big global challenge. So that's, I think, what I've been, and I spend more time now outside having conversations with friends that you have in here that you've developed over long, and the stimulation you get, I've taken far more, and particularly from these two who got this platform started. Who's next?
Right here. Wonderful.
I'll be gentle.
Oh, I'm much bigger than gentle.
No, please
My name
stand,
is
please
Naveen
stand.
Alkari, I'm from Egypt. I'm
Please
an
stand up.
entrepreneur.
Please stand up.
Okay.
So we can-
I come here actually as an entrepreneur to learn from academia, see how academia is talking about entrepreneurship. We have a whole generation that's coming up of real entrepreneurs. So what is it that you can take from academia that actually builds into how entrepreneurs are just get out and do it? And so the interaction with academia is an interesting part of what we can use.
Can I build on that?
Yep,
Do I need that?
yep.
Okay. I always am amazed by the fact that most of us who teach entrepreneurship did not come from backgrounds where we were trained to do this. So we all are coming from really different places, and we all have to kind of get up to speed. So it's about having a shared vocabulary that we didn't get, from some formal training.
I like that. It's good. Did someone talk about the fact that high growth ventures, no matter where they start, are born global? Did somebody do that? And I just spaced it out. Somebody talk about that? Let's- But yeah, let me see if I can kickstart that, and if I don't get it right, please somebody else jump in. Which is, it certainly was mentioned yesterday. Was it? The day before when Doug Richard, chastised American startups, and because they tend to think about America as a market, and then it's some piece of their strategy includes rest of world. It's just this weird phenomenon. And Tina and I face that, or any of us in the room that teach in America. But elsewhere, this notion that startups are born global, because let's just take Finland, for example. What's the population of Finland? 5.4 million. The population of where I live, and Tina lives, is about 6 or 7 million. So it's about the same population. And to be an entrepreneur in Finland means to be born global. If you're going to be a high growth startup, high growth enterprise. So that would be stimulus enough to go and get out of our comfort zone and then go elsewhere to learn about global matters. And I think that would be the case for all of you. Is that correct? Because if we're teaching about high growth enterprises, they're born global, so therefore it's a natural activity. Anybody else got one?
I can do that.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, another thing I've realized over the years, so for how many of you, raise your hand if you've been to REE conferences before? Okay, so I'm gonna guess it's like a 20%, 15%. The number of collaborations that result from the connections that get made here are remarkable. I mean, the number, I would be incredible to actually look at the impact. It's not just the meeting. What will happen is, I meet, Peter Kelly, and we then end up working on a project together. I meet someone else, and we end up working on a project together. There are such an amazing number of concentric circles of impact that move out from the meeting.
Yeah, another point I think is coming back to Doug Rich's on impact to students. That entrepreneurship is a way that you can show students that they can choose other careers, be it not perhaps working for government or big companies, but you can actually start your own business, or you can be innovative and entrepreneurial in industry or in government, so that the impact to students.
Well, thank you. I asked this question of some young people before coming, specifically the PhD students in our department who are getting degrees in some combination of strategy and entrepreneurship, or organization and entrepreneurship with a overlay of technology. And in other words, they're being trained to be future professors. And one of them is a student. He's actually a PhD student, but he's a faculty member from Chile. He pointed out this paper, and I'll put it, make sure it goes up on the web, by Christensen and some others, as in Clayton Christensen, about the pursuit of high-value opportunity. And it's called, it's this notion of idea networking as opposed to social networking, idea networking. And specifically, it is the get out of your comfort network. And I experienced this, maybe you did. I mean, I had the pleasure of being at quite a few of these REEs, a little more than 20, as we go over the 48. Not every single one, but pretty close. And certainly between the two of us, we covered the 48. And I got the same feeling Wednesday as I've had in the past, which is I'm a little shy. I mean, I'm in my comfort network, and I see some new faces in the room, and I'm a little hesitant to want to step out and listen, because we tend to just, I sort of know this topic of entrepreneurship education, and I've got a nice network, and I'm sort of safe and comfortable and secure. There's not a lot. I can just keep turning the crank. But then what happens over the next 3 days, and it happened again, is I mean, there's 2 or 3 of you. I just know we're going to be friends and collaborators forever. I just know it, and it just pushed me, and they came from really, sort of on the edge of where I could not have anticipated that. Did that happen to you? Did something happen over the last 3 days where you met somebody and just said, wow, this really is not my comfort network? I can even turn lights out with just by thinking of it. Watch this, I can turn it back on by... No, I guess not. So I learned a few, come on, my magic guy, where is he? There he is. So, all right, okay. Do my sleeves out and everything. All right, so getting outside of your comfort zone allows for high value opportunities to come along. And as you remember what Risto said, the chairman of Nokia and founder of F-Secure, I was really influenced by him when he said, big ideas. It's a little bit of the impact. He says, big ideas matter. I mean, small ideas don't. And I think we like this type of entrepreneurship education, which is small business is fine, that's great, small enterprises, but let's try to stimulate big enterprises again, big impact. And where will that come from? But high value opportunities. That means us getting out of our comfort zone.
Hey.
Then we'll wrap up.
Yep, okay. Yeah, for me, for me, I think we're all catalysts, and I think that's kind of the word that always sticks out to me when Tom says big problems. I think none of us can go out there and solve, find the big problem and solve it. But if we impact tens of people and they impact tens of people, things get solved. And I think that's been really a hard thing to come to grips for, because I think everybody wants to directly make an impact and see, okay, I did this and it turned into that. But I think what really happens here is, you do this, a bunch of other things happen, and then something big happens that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't taken that first step. So kind of being proactive catalysts, I think, is really an important thing for us to do.
Okay, anybody want to have one more statement? We have time for one more. John, thank you.
Tom, I've got an observation. There's so many people here who are relatively new to teaching entrepreneurship. And one of the things that always strikes me about REE is its focus on doing rather than about knowing. And I think as educators and as people trying to help people be entrepreneurs, we have to be very clear that our job is not to teach them about entrepreneurship. Our job is to teach them to do entrepreneurship. And sometimes I think we forget that, and especially those who are academically trained, we tend to think, well, my job is to impart knowledge about something. Here, the focus is on how can we help you do it, and I think that's a really fundamental notion. The course I teach at London Business School most is the entrepreneurial finance course, and at the end of that course, I say to my students, if I save just one or two of you from careers in iBanking or consulting, I've done my job.
That's a great way to end.
Yeah, and I want to build on that comment, because most of academics go to conferences to present papers and to get some lines on their CV. That is not that kind of place. People come here to collaborate and learn from each other. It's really, from my perspective, an incredibly vibrant and collaborative community, and I value it so much. And anyway, I thank you for leading that discussion.
Yeah, and I'll just wrap it up by going backwards on the title. We got to change this world. We really do. The major systems are failing. And are we just going to stand by so that your children and your grandchildren are going to have half the world that we got to enjoy? And conflict will just increase. And it will turn out to be some terrible science fiction outcome that you only see in science fiction. We have an opportunity to change that. I think we've chosen entrepreneurship education, or being somewhere either directly in it or near it, because we do believe it's a great enabler, a great problem-solving tool. And so it just only makes sense, especially here in this decade, that digitally we can connect, that we also connect, directly with one another. So with that in mind, there are many ways to do that. And now we're going to start talking about how, and how does REE fit in that equation. So give yourself a round of applause for getting us warmed up. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, come on. Thank you. I think you did a better job.